The distress signal came through on a quiet Tuesday afternoon at the Deep Space Listening Post Alpha. Dr. Sarah Chen had almost missed it, buried as it was beneath the usual cosmic background radiation. But there was something different about this signal. It wasn't random. It carried the unmistakable pattern of artificial origin. "Director Matthews, I think you need to see this," she called out, her eyes never leaving the data stream flowing across her holographic display. The signal's translation took weeks, but its message sent shockwaves through Earth's Defense Council. An advanced civilization, the Etherian Republic, was broadcasting its final warning to the galaxy. They were falling to an unstoppable force known as the Nexus Collective, a species that had already conquered 17 advanced civilizations. Earth's response was unprecedented. Instead of panic or denial, humanity chose to listen. More signals were intercepted, each telling the same story from different corners of the galaxy. The Nexus Collective operated with mechanical precision, targeting the most advanced civilizations first. They didn't negotiate. They didn't show mercy. They simply arrived, overwhelmed their targets with superior technology, and absorbed their knowledge and resources. Admiral James Torres stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing the latest intelligence. "The Nexus Collective isn't just winning battles," he explained. "They're rewriting the rules of warfare. Every civilization they consume makes them stronger. They learn, adapt, and improve. Traditional military doctrine won't work against them." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, barely a spacefaring civilization by galactic standards, was facing an enemy that had already defeated species thousands of years more advanced. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. "But that's exactly why we might have a chance," she said, drawing surprised looks. "The collected strategy relies on predictability. They target advanced civilizations because they're logical choices. We're different. We're unpredictable, innovative, and most importantly, we're being underestimated." The next 6 months saw Earth transform, not with panic or desperation, but with purpose. While other civilizations had built massive fleets or planetary shields, humanity took a different approach. They studied every intercepted transmission, every battle record, every scrap of information about the Nexus Collective's tactics. Captain Michael Jong, recently appointed to head the Special Projects Division, noticed something others had missed. "Look at their attack patterns," he pointed out during a strategy session. "The Collective doesn't just overwhelm with superior technology. They rely on their victims' fear. They expect resistance to crumble once their technological superiority is demonstrated. But what happens when you face an enemy that isn't afraid?" This insight became the foundation of humanity's response. While the Collective expected civilizations to either match their technological might or surrender, Earth would do neither. They would fight differently. The Global Defense Initiative was formed, combining military precision with scientific innovation. But unlike previous victims of the Collective, Earth's preparations remained hidden. No massive fleet construction, no obvious planetary defenses. To any watching eyes, Earth appeared vulnerable, primitive, barely worth noticing. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only as the Forge, humanity's true response took shape. Dr. Maya Patel led the engineering team responsible for developing quantum computers capable of processing information faster than anything the galaxy had seen. "The Collective relies on processing power to coordinate their attacks," she explained. "But they've never encountered quantum systems designed to be unpredictable by nature." Admiral Torres worked closely with artificial intelligence experts to develop combat systems that could adapt faster than the Collective's analysis could predict. The goal wasn't to match their technology, but to render it ineffective through constant tactical evolution. Meanwhile, in orbital shipyards disguised as maintenance platforms, the first pieces of humanity's answer to the Collective threat began to take shape. Not a fleet of warships, but something far more ambitious. The turning point came when long-range sensors detected Nexus Collective scout ships entering the solar system's outer rim. They were early. Humanity's analysts had predicted at least another year before first contact. But instead of panic, there was a sense of grim determination. "They're following their standard pattern," reported Lieutenant Emma Foster from the tracking station on Europa. "Small scout groups, gathering initial data before the main fleet arrives. They expect to find another primitive civilization, easy to categorize and assess. What they found instead was silence. No defensive fleets, no planetary shields, no signs of preparation at all. Just a seemingly vulnerable planet with primitive space technology and a species that appeared to be completely unaware of the greater galaxy's dangers." The collected scouts completed their survey and departed, transmitting their findings to the main fleet. Earth appeared to be a low-priority target, barely worth the resources to conquer, exactly as planned. In the forge, Dr. Patel watched the final systems come online. The quantum processors hummed with potential, ready to outthink the most advanced artificial intelligences in known space. Admiral Torres reviewed the combat simulations one last time, each showing scenarios that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Captain Zhang stood on the observation deck, watching as the final pieces were assembled in orbit. "They think we're primitive," he said to no one in particular. "They think we'll be easy to conquer. They've never encountered a species that chose to appear weak while preparing to be strong." The Nexus Collective had conquered 17 advanced civilizations through superior technology and predictable strategies. But they had never faced humanity, a species that had turned its apparent weaknesses into strengths, its technological limitations into advantages, and its fear into determination. As the first signs of the Collective's main fleet appeared on long-range sensors, Earth remained quiet. But beneath the surface, in hidden facilities and orbital shipyards, humanity's response was ready. They had studied their enemy, understood their weaknesses, and prepared a welcome the Collective would never forget. The game was about to begin, and for the first time in their history of conquest, the Nexus Collective was about to learn what it meant to be truly surprised. The massive underground facility known as the Forge buzzed with activity as Project Prometheus entered its final phase. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the quantum core that would become the heart of humanity's greatest achievement, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the crystalline structure. "The quantum matrix is stable," she reported, her voice carrying across the circular command center. "Neural interface systems are operating at optimal levels." Around her, dozens of engineers and scientists monitored streams of data, each responsible for a crucial component of what many considered humanity's last hope. Admiral Torres watched from the observation deck, his expression stern. The Nexus Collective's main fleet was less than 3 months from Earth, and their scout ships had already begun more frequent passes through the solar system. Each pass brought them closer to discovering the truth of humanity's preparations. Project Prometheus wasn't just a warship, it was a revolution in military technology. While the Collective relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, humanity had chosen a different path. The U.S. Prometheus would be a single vessel, but one unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Sarah Martinez, selected to lead the Prometheus, spent countless hours in the neural interface simulator. Her mind merged with the ship's quantum AI in a fusion of human intuition and artificial intelligence. "It's not about controlling the ship," she explained during a briefing. "It's about becoming one with it. The Collective thinks in binary, victory or defeat. We think in shades of gray." The ship's design broke every convention of space warfare. Instead of thick armor, it used adaptive metamaterials that could change properties in microseconds. Rather than traditional weapons, it carried systems designed to turn the enemy's technology against itself. The quantum core, Dr. Patel's masterpiece, could process combat situations faster than light could cross a room. But the true innovation lay in its ability to learn and adapt. The Collective's greatest weakness is their predictability, Captain Martinez said during a training session. They expect their enemies to either match their strength or surrender. The Prometheus will do neither, will change the rules of engagement with every encounter. Deep within the ship's laboratories, Dr. Victor Reis led the weapons development team. Traditional weapons are useless against their shields, he explained to a group of engineers. So we developed systems that bypass shields entirely. Quantum entanglement disruptors, probability field generators, weapons they won't even recognize as weapons until it's too late. The ship's outer hull took shape in secret orbital facilities, disguised as commercial satellite maintenance platforms. Its surface appeared to ripple like liquid metal, the adaptive metamaterials already active even during construction. Each component was tested exhaustively, then tested again. There would be no second chances, no backup plan. Admiral Torres received regular updates on the collective's approach. Their main fleet had already subjugated 2 more civilizations en route to Earth, adding their technology and knowledge to their arsenal. But each conquest followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, predictable tactics, absolute confidence in their superiority. They're not just predictable, Dr. Patel noted during a strategy session. They're arrogant. They've never needed to innovate because their existing strategies have never failed. That makes them vulnerable to something truly new. The Prometheus's crew was chosen with the same careful precision as every other aspect of the project. Each member was selected not just for their skills, but for their ability to think creatively under pressure. Traditional military experience was considered secondary to innovative problem-solving abilities. Lieutenant James Chen, the ship's tactical officer, had been a professional chess player before joining the military. In chess, the strongest players can be defeated by unconventional moves they've never encountered, he explained during training. The collective has only ever played one style of game. We're about to introduce them to a whole new way of thinking. As the launch date approached, humanity's deception grew more elaborate. Visible defenses around Earth remained primitive, exactly what the collective would expect from a developing civilization. Satellite networks appeared disorganized. Communications remained unsecured, and military installations made no attempt to hide their outdated technology. The Prometheus itself remained invisible, its metamaterials rendering it undetectable even to the collective's advanced sensors. During its test flights, it appeared as nothing more than background radiation, a ghost in the void of space. Captain Martinez spent the final weeks before launch in complete neural interface immersion, her mind joining with the ship's AI in ever more complex simulations. The fusion of human creativity with artificial intelligence created something entirely new, a hybrid consciousness that could think in ways neither human nor machine could achieve alone. The key isn't just the technology, she explained to her crew. It's our humanity. The collective has forgotten what it means to adapt, to innovate, to surprise. They've become machines in all but name, bound by logic and predictability. We'll remind them that the universe isn't just about power, it's about creativity. Dr. Patel made the final adjustments to the quantum core, her hand steady despite the weight of responsibility. The core's crystalline structure pulsed with possibilities, each quantum state representing a different tactical option, a different way to survive and win against impossible odds. As the launch countdown began, Admiral Torres addressed the assembled crew one final time. The collective expects us to be primitive, weak, easy to conquer. They expect us to fight like everyone else they've defeated, with fleets and fortifications and fear. Instead, we'll show them something they've never seen before. Humanity at its most innovative, most unpredictable, most determined. The Prometheus rose silently from its hidden berth, its surface reflecting the stars like liquid dreams. It carried not just humanity's hopes for survival, but a new way of thinking about warfare itself. In a galaxy where brute force had always prevailed, it would demonstrate that intelligence, creativity, and the human spirit could overcome any obstacle. The Nexus Collective's main fleet was approaching the outer solar system, their sensors already probing Earth's defenses, finding exactly what they expected: a primitive civilization ripe for conquest. They had no way of knowing that humanity's true defense was already moving into position, invisible and patient, ready to change the course of galactic history. The game was about to begin, and the rules were about to change forever. The first engagement between the Prometheus and the Nexus Collective occurred in the shadows of Saturn's rings. Captain Martinez, her consciousness merged with the ship's quantum AI, watched through enhanced sensors as 3 collective warships moved through the ice field, their arrogance evident in their basic search patterns. "They're not even running active shields," Lieutenant Chen observed from his tactical station. "They truly believe we're primitive." His hand hovered over the quantum interface, ready to implement the strategies they had practiced countless times. The Prometheus drifted silently, its metamaterials perfectly mimicking the surrounding ice and radiation. The ship's quantum core processed billions of possible scenarios per second, while Captain Martinez's human intuition selected the perfect moment to strike. "Execute pattern Delta," she commanded, her voice calm despite the historic moment. The Prometheus shifted, its surface rippling like liquid starlight. Before the collective ships could react, quantum entanglement disruptors fired, their beams invisible to conventional sensors. The effect was instantaneous. The nearest collective ship's systems went dark, its quantum communications network shattered by weapons it couldn't detect. The other 2 vessels, operating on protocols developed over centuries of successful conquest, moved to standard defensive positions, exactly as predicted. "Their response patterns are just like the simulations," Dr. Paddle reported from engineering. "They can't adapt to what they don't understand." The quantum core pulsed with activity, analyzing the collective's reactions and adjusting tactics in real time. The Prometheus danced through space, its movements defying conventional physics. Lieutenant Chen's unconventional tactical approach proved devastating. Instead of targeting weapons or shields, the Prometheus attacked the collective's ability to coordinate and respond. Within minutes, all 3 collective ships were adrift, their crews trapped inside vessels that had become little more than metal coffins. But Captain Martinez wasn't interested in destruction. "Initiate information extraction," she ordered. The Prometheus's specialized systems began downloading the collective's tactical databases. The victory was significant not just for its outcome, but for its implications. The Prometheus had proven that humanity's approach, combining human creativity with advanced technology, could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. As news of the engagement reached the collective's main fleet, their response was predictable. Additional scout groups were dispatched, each larger than the last. Each fell to the Prometheus, their destruction carefully engineered to reveal nothing about humanity's true capabilities. Admiral Torres, monitoring from Earth, watched as the collective's confidence began to crack. "They're starting to realize this isn't going to be a standard conquest," he noted during a briefing. "But they're still following their established protocols. They can't conceive of changing their approach." The Prometheus struck again and again, each engagement more daring than the last. Captain Martinez and her crew learned from every encounter, while the collective remained bound by their rigid tactical doctrine. The hunter had truly become the hunted. The ship's quantum AI developed new combat algorithms based on human unpredictability, while the crew's intuition guided its application. Traditional military doctrine would have called for holding positions or establishing defensive lines. Instead, the Prometheus appeared randomly throughout the solar system, striking without warning and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. "Their biggest weakness isn't their technology," Captain Martinez observed after another successful engagement. "It's their inability to imagine alternatives. They've been dominant for so long, they've forgotten how to think creatively." The turning point came when the collective finally committed their main fleet to the battle. Thousands of warships entered the solar system, their formation a testament to centuries of unchallenged military superiority. Under normal circumstances, such a force would have been invincible. But the Prometheus had changed the rules of engagement. Its quantum core had analyzed data from dozens of encounters, identifying patterns in the collective's response protocols. Each ship in their fleet was connected to a central command structure, a structure that had never faced a threat it couldn't overwhelm with sheer force. They're networked for efficiency, Dr. Paddle explained during a strategic briefing. But networks can be manipulated. Every ship we've encountered has given us more insight into their command protocols. The Prometheus launched its boldest attack yet, appearing in the heart of the collective fleet. But instead of weapons, it broadcast a carefully crafted quantum signal, a virus that turned the collective's greatest strength into a catastrophic weakness. Ship after ship went dark as the virus spread through their network, their crews helpless as their own technology turned against them. The mighty fleet that had conquered 17 civilizations was paralyzed by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. Lieutenant Chen watched in awe as the tactical display showed thousands of collective ships drifting powerless. They never imagined someone could use their own network against them, he said. They'd never had to imagine it before. The battle for Earth's solar system ended not with a devastating exchange of firepower, but with a demonstration of human ingenuity. The Prometheus had proven that victory didn't always require matching an enemy's strength. Sometimes it required showing them their weaknesses. As the disabled collective fleet drifted in space, Captain Martinez broadcast a message on all frequencies. Your way of warfare is obsolete. Humanity offers you a choice: adapt or retreat. The galaxy will no longer bow to brute force alone. The message was met with silence, but its impact would echo across the galaxy. The Nexus Collective, for the first time in their history of conquest, had been outthought rather than outfought. The hunter had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of the Prometheus's victory over the collective's main fleet rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. Communications channels, long silent under collective control, suddenly burst with activity. Species that had been subjugated for generations watched in disbelief as humanity's single warship accomplished what their combined armies could not. Captain Martinez stood on the Prometheus's observation deck, watching the disabled collective ships drift like dead metal islands in space. They're trying to rebuild their network, she noted, her neural link with the ship's AI providing real-time analysis. But they can't decide how. For the first time, they're facing uncertainty. The quantum core detected attempts by the collective to reestablish their command structure, each attempt more desperate than the last. But the virus created by Dr. Patel had done more than just disable their ships. It had exposed a fundamental weakness in their entire civilization. They don't just share technology, Dr. Patel explained during an emergency council meeting. They share consciousness. Each conquest added to their collective intelligence, but it also made them more rigid, more dependent on consensus. They literally can't function without unanimity. This revelation changed humanity's strategy. The Prometheus was no longer just fighting ships. It was fighting an ideology, a way of thinking that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. Admiral Torres recognized the opportunity this presented. We don't need to destroy them, he announced to the council. We need to show the species they've absorbed that there's another way. The collective's greatest weapon was fear, fear of standing alone. We'll show them the strength of independence. The Prometheus began a new campaign, targeting not the collective's military assets, but their control centers, the massive computational hubs that maintained their shared consciousness. Each strike was precisely calculated to fragment their network rather than destroy it. Lieutenant Chen developed tactics that exploited this strategy. It's like a game of Go, he explained to his crew. We're not trying to capture their pieces. We're cutting off their connections, forcing them to think as individuals rather than a hive. The effect was dramatic. Across collective-controlled space, subjugated species began to break free of the network's influence. Centuries of forced integration began to unravel. The collective, designed for unity, had no protocols for handling widespread rebellion. Captain Martinez watched through the Prometheus's sensors as entire star systems declared independence. They're not just fighting back, she observed. They're remembering who they were before the collective absorbed them. They're rediscovering their individuality. The collective's response was chaos. Some factions attempted to maintain control through traditional means, brute force, and superior technology. Others, influenced by humanity's example, began questioning centuries of programming. The monolithic empire that had seemed invincible began to crack from within. Dr. Patel's quantum core detected these changes in real time. Their network is fragmenting naturally now, she reported. Each break creates new patterns of thought, new possibilities they never considered when they were connected. The Prometheus continued its campaign, but its role had changed. Instead of a weapon, it became a symbol, proof that creativity and independence could triumph over conformity and force. Species that had lost hope under collective rule saw humanity not as conquerors, but as liberators. Lieutenant Chen noticed a pattern in the rising chaos. The younger generations of the collective are adapting faster than the old, he reported. They're choosing to disconnect voluntarily, seeking something their network never gave them: the right to choose their own path. The turning point came when a group of disconnected collective ships approached the Prometheus under a flag of truce. Their message was unprecedented. They wanted to learn, not to absorb or conquer, but to understand how humanity had achieved what their superior technology could not. Captain Martinez, with approval from Earth, accepted their request. The Prometheus became more than a warship. It became a classroom where former enemies learned about human concepts like innovation, individuality, and the strength found in diversity of thought. Admiral Torres watched these developments with cautious optimism. "We didn't just break their military power," he observed. "We showed them a different way of existing." The galaxy was stagnant under their rule, advancing in technology, but regressing in creativity and spirit. The collective's empire, built on assimilation and control, was transforming into something new. Species that had been enemies under their rule began forming alliances based on mutual respect rather than force. The rigid hierarchy that had dominated the galaxy was being replaced by a network of independent civilizations, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. Dr. Patel's analysis showed the scale of the change. "It's not just a political revolution," she explained. "It's an evolutionary one. The galaxy is remembering how to innovate, how to question, how to grow." The collective's greatest crime wasn't their conquests. It was stopping the natural development of countless civilizations. The Prometheus continued its mission, but now it protected the fragile new alliances forming in the collective's wake. Captain Martinez and her crew found themselves mediating disputes between newly independent species, helping them rediscover their lost heritage while building bridges to a different future. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, the species the collective had dismissed as primitive, was leading the way. Not through force or technological superiority, but through the very qualities the collective had forgotten: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to think differently. 1 year after the Prometheus's first encounter with the Nexus Collective, Captain Martinez stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of species, both former members of the collective and independent civilizations, gathered to witness something unprecedented: the formation of a new galactic order. The Great Chamber, constructed in neutral space, reflected the changing times. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of the collective era, delegates sat in circles, symbolizing equality and shared responsibility. The Prometheus hung in orbit above, no longer a weapon of war, but a symbol of transformation. "We gather here not as conquerors or conquered," Captain Martinez addressed the assembly, her voice carrying the weight of experience, "but as equals, each bringing our own strengths to forge a different future. Humanity didn't win a war. We sparked a revolution in thinking." Dr. Patel's quantum core had evolved beyond its military origins, now serving as the foundation for a new communication network. Unlike the collective's forced integration, this network preserved independence while facilitating cooperation. Species could share knowledge without losing their identity. Lieutenant Chen, who had once planned battle strategies, now helped coordinate peaceful exchanges between civilizations. "The same creativity we used to fight," he noted, "now serves to build understanding." Every species has something unique to teach and to learn. The former collective worlds were undergoing their own renaissance. Freed from the constraints of hive mind thinking, they rediscovered cultural identities that had been suppressed for generations. Art, music, and philosophy flourished in spaces once dominated by uniform thought. Admiral Torres, representing Earth, watched with pride as humanity took its place among the stars. Not as rulers or saviors, but as partners in a greater journey. Our greatest victory, he told the Council, wasn't defeating the collective. It was proving that strength comes in many forms. The Prometheus underwent its own transformation. Its weapon systems were repurposed for exploration and research. The same quantum technology that had disrupted the collective now powered discoveries in science and medicine. Captain Martins and her crew became teachers, sharing not just technology, but ways of thinking that had been lost under collective rule. Dr. Patel's work attracted scholars from across the galaxy. The quantum core shows us possibilities, she explained to a group of alien scientists. But it's our choices that matter. Technology without creativity is just machinery. The collective forgot that. We won't make the same mistake. The remnants of the collective itself chose different paths. Some integrated into the new galactic society as independent entities. Others retreated to distant regions, struggling to adapt to a universe that no longer bent to their will. But even they were changing, forced to evolve or face irrelevance. The Galactic Council established principles that would prevent another collective from rising. Power was distributed, innovation encouraged, and diversity celebrated. The same qualities that had made humanity successful became the foundation for a new era of cooperation. Lieutenant Chen observed the changes with satisfaction. We didn't just break their military, he said. We broke the idea that uniformity equals strength. The galaxy is messy now, complicated, but alive with possibilities. The Prometheus's legacy extended beyond its military victories. Ships based on its design began exploring unknown regions of space, each crewed by mixed species teams combining different perspectives and abilities. The same quantum technology that had once disrupted the collective now connected civilizations in harmony. Captain Martinez watched as former enemies became allies, their combined knowledge accelerating progress in ways the collective's forced integration never could. We showed them that true strength comes from choice, she reflected. When species choose to work together, while maintaining their uniqueness, they achieve more than any empire could force. The galaxy entered a new age, one where innovation and individuality were valued above conformity and control. Humanity's victory over the collective became legend, not for its military aspect, but for what it represented: the triumph of creativity over control, of diversity over uniformity. Admiral Torres, in his final address before retiring, summed up humanity's impact. We didn't save the galaxy. We reminded it how to save itself. Every species has the potential for greatness. The key is having the freedom to find it in their own way. The Prometheus continued to serve, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of what was possible when determination met innovation. Its quantum core, once the heart of Earth's defense, became the foundation of a network that united species through choice rather than force. As new challenges arose, the galaxy faced them not as a monolithic entity, but as a diverse community, each contributing their unique strengths. The age of empires had ended. The age of cooperation had begun, and somewhere in deep space, the Prometheus sailed on, carrying with it the lesson that had changed the galaxy. That true strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to think differently and the wisdom to respect diversity. The end of one story had become the beginning of countless others, each adding their voice to a galaxy that had remembered how to dream.